morning から言ったらいいんですかね。This is Vice Admiral Fumio, retired Maritime Self-Defense Force. Chinese reclamation in the South China Sea has been developing significantly. Chinese Minister of Foreign Affairs Wang Yi stated at the Southeast Asian Summit Kuala Lumpur, Malaysia in August that it had halted land reclamation effort. This is, however, a deception which Sun Tzu stated in the first chapter of his Art of War. China does not want a direct confrontation with the United States, but want to expand her sphere of influence. Therefore, China has been and will be making incremental approach, so-called salami slicing strategy. Not only Xi Jinping's statement at the 70th anniversary Victory of Japan Day, but also the latest Chinese defense white paper stated that China will never seek hegemony or expansion, but this is another deception. In order to cope against Chinese strategy, we have to avoid a competition neither China versus United States, nor China versus Japan. At the last Boston Global Forum on April 20, I made two proposals. I'd like to restate those. The first, all maritime nations should bind together and create a strong hedge in order to counter Chinese maritime aggression. We have to make a competition China against the world as a whole or international community. Therefore, not only the United States and Japan, but also other states such as Australia, India, Vietnam, and Philippines should make a collective naval vessel passage within 12 nautical miles from Chinese artificial islands in the South China Sea. I'm expecting the U.S. leadership on this matter. If we do not demonstrate our freedom of navigation right, Chinese artificial island and adjacent waters become de facto Chinese territory by international customary law, and China will establish her air defense identification zone in the South China Sea near future. China wants to create de facto territory before Obama administration will be terminated. My second proposal was that we have to conduct an offset strategy which demonstrates transparency and counters China's disinformation campaign. We should disclose to the international community by social media the truth of what China has been actually doing. This is very effective because China always wants to save her face in the nature of her behavior and therefore make correct what China is doing according to what has been disclosed. What Chinese leaders mentioned, such as halted reclamation and never seek hegemony or expansion, were completely false. We have to keep effort to bring what China is actually doing to light. We should not trust what Chinese leaders said and what China is really doing. Thank you very much.
Good afternoon. My name is Mitoji Yabunaka, the former Vice Minister for Foreign Affairs of Japan, and now currently I'm teaching at the university, what's called Ritsumeikan University in Kyoto. Now I'm very happy to join the discussion, the conversation Unfortunately, I can't be on time, but I'd like to speak a little bit about how I see about South China Sea and East China Sea. When I was learned that the United States is going to send the ships within the 12 miles of the islands that China is drilling and reclamations underway, I thought it's a good idea. The reason why is, of course, when China a few years ago announced its air defense identification zones, United States sent flew B-52 immediately without notifying China. And then, as a matter of fact, it nullified the announcement of China. But this time, the idea came that the US might send a ship within 12 miles zones, and yet when China reacted very sharply, opposing that, then US deserted, or somehow not quite sure what the US is going to do. That's not really a very, very good idea for US to do so. Once you have idea to do so, and then you have to be very firm. But of course, I know that you can't have confrontation with China. Of course not. And Japan as well. Certainly that we should explore ways how to live peacefully and harmoniously with China. And we have a pretty good idea about that with regard to East China Sea. And of course, South China Sea and north of that, East China Sea. If I may first tell a bit about what happened in East China Sea in 2008. Well, 7 years ago, you're talking about old stories, and yet this is very, very new, even today. And the agreement is, as you might see in that map that I'll show you, the map is about Japan-China Joint Exploration Agreement. And yes, indeed, in 2008, we agreed to do the joint exploration of natural gas in the seabed. We talk about, yes, let's make the East China Sea a sea of peace, cooperation, and friendship. And as a first step, we agreed, let's say, find out the area, which is very, very small, the circled the area, what it is called Japan-China Joint Exploration Site. And key point here is that China used to say, yes, because of a continental shelf extension, their waters go as far as Okinawa Trough, meaning that entire East China Sea is actually the China water. We say it's no way. The UN Sea of Law, the treaty, says that when there are two countries, you must negotiate and find a kind of a mutually agreed sort of demarcations. And normally we say it is medium line, so separated into half the waters. What actually happened in 2008 is, of course, it is only the first step. And yet that sort of the agreed upon area for joint explorations, and key point here is the medium line is running through that the agreed zones. And they say, Mr. Yabunaka, the Shirakawa, south of that, that's of course the west of medium line. So it's nothing to do with Japan, they said. So we said, well, under the waters, when you drill some gas from Chinese side, ours might be pumped away. It's kind of straw, the effect, we said. So in the end, we agreed, yes, in accordance with Chinese law, they are going to develop it, and yet Japanese companies are going to join it. More recently, unfortunately, this hasn't come yet as the treaty. They say it's too sensitive. Yes, that's okay. They say it is too sensitive, and yet we say we have reconfirmed once again and again between two summit tiers between Japan and China. Yes, this is an agreement. Well, some years has passed. In most recently, the Japanese side posted a kind of the photos taken by Japanese self-defense forces that shows the lot of sort of pipeline and lot of the explorations are to be begun in the west of the medium line, and that platform's pictures came out. And they said, well, this is nothing to do with agreement. Agreement, yes, we have it, is very important. So, as a matter of fact, they reaffirmed this is an agreement. And as a first step, I think that we have to say, keep saying, we should make it a kind of actual translations of that agreement into the reality. Now, my kind of idea today is for Abe to announce 3 things on these matters. Number 1 is, yes, we have to have a kind of the emergency prepared mechanisms. That there's no accidental sort of actions taken by either side. So this is rather immediate one. And long term, we should have a joint sort of rules that covers both East China Sea and South China Sea. And for those kind of maritime rules for peace is a kind of idea. And third things is, as a first step with regard to this East China Sea, translate it into actual sort of agreement. And let's explore jointly. And that will certainly tell the world, yes, Japan and China is cooperating. Now, key point here, as I said, is that confrontation, no way. That also certainly covers South China Sea. Today, of course, the China says entire South China Sea is in their waters. Certainly Vietnam opposes that, Philippines oppose that. And I hope that there is a kind of spirit of cooperation between Japan, China, and ASEAN countries. We should explore the ways, and we should press China. Let's work for the peace. You say peace, China, and we say peace, of course, and find out the kind of common rules. This is what I hope, really, that Abe will do all kind of a smart leadership to convince China, and of course, audiences is US, India, all over the world. That's my idea. I hope it is not just a dream, but it will be realized. Thank you very much.
いきます。Situation in South China Sea also a source of serious concern for Japan and other Asian countries, because Japan and many other Asian countries are heavily relying on Middle East as a source of energy. And for example, most of oil which Japan imports from Middle East comes through South China Sea. So if there is some crisis in South China Sea, Japan and other Asian countries may have to find alternative sea lane to deliver energy from Middle East to their countries. And according to some Japanese think tank estimate, shipping cost from Middle East to Japan will go up by 200 and 300 billion Japanese yen per year, because Japan have to deliver a ship, shipping cost, because a sea lane will get longer in case Japan cannot use South China Sea. But the impact of the South China Sea crisis is not only limited to an economic domain, but moreover, security implication is more important. If world community cannot do anything to prevent China from changing status quo unilaterally, this may cause, US allies and partners in Asian country may start to wonder to how much extent that they can rely on US leadership to maintain the stability in this region. Also, China may think that they can do the same, not only in South China Sea, but also in East China Sea, including Senkaku Island. So if we cannot do anything to stop them, this situation might get even worse in the near future. So question is what we can do and what we should do. Of course, in order to avoid unnecessary conflict, both parties should restrain themselves from adopting provocative actions. So China have to be less assertive and stop what they are doing right now. On the other hand, other disputed countries like Vietnam and Philippines also should avoid to adapt assertive or provocative actions. But what is going on right now is that it is China which is now changing status quo very drastically by unilateral action. So question is, after all, what we can do to deter China's assertive action. In this sense, I think that after all, it's a balance of power. We have to fix the changing balance of power due to the Chinese military build-up to be more appropriate balance. In this sense, I hope that U.S. shows leadership by taking visible action to deter China's action. Concretely speaking, as U.S. media, as reported by several U.S. media, I watch, and other Asian countries, I think, watch very carefully whether Obama administration will send military asset within the 12 nautical miles of artificial island which China is building. By doing it, U.S. and other allies and partner countries should send a strong signal that we cannot regard those artificial islands as a territory of China, legitimate territory of China. Sending that kind of message is very important. Thank you.